everybody, this is Ramon Ray, founder and editor and producer of SmartHustle.com. Thanks for joining me for another what I know is going to be exciting, I was going to say webinar, but it's not quite a webinar, podcast, helping small business owners, entrepreneurs, founders, and the like start and grow their businesses. Here I am today with Andy Mukul, and I'd like you gentlemen to give your full names, and Eric Day, who heads small business at Dell. Eric and I have had the pleasure of hanging around and going around stages multiple times. So Eric, first to you, welcome, and thanks for joining me, my friend, again. Thank you, Eric.
It is my pleasure. Great to be here with you, Ramon.
Awesome. Andy, and thanks for being here today. How are things in your world, Andy?
Man, they're fantastic. We've been working a little bit, which has been great. Good place to be.
It is indeed. And Mukul, what about yourself, man? How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. Yeah,
awesome.
Things have been pretty good at the office.
Awesome. I was talking offline to one of our colleagues in the green room and saying how Marcus Lemonis, the prophet, he says he's glad to, especially for smaller businesses, wake up and have something to do. Nobody wants to wake up and wonder, I have nothing to do. So let's dive right in. We'll talk about 30 minutes, give or take. And I think first, it's, forgive me, Viper Imaging, I want to say. Is that right? Viper? Yep. Yeah, good. Viper Imaging. Why don't we just talk a little bit about, Andy, right at the top. What is it? What problem do you solve? And who do you solve it for? Viper Imaging. My guess is it's a secret government entity, or you're like Knight Rider creators. I don't know. You tell me. What's Viper Imaging?
We have a cool logo, and Alicia won't let us get the onesies that we wanted to be like superheroes. But no, it's when we founded Viper Imaging about 6 years ago, my business partner Rich Dan and I, we had been in the thermal imaging background for a long time. So we've been doing that where we basically worked with a lot of different industrial facilities primarily. So we're working with power plants, and steel mills, and refineries, where we integrate a pretty high-tech device, a thermal imaging camera, to measure heat within their systems and then report that data back. So what we found was more of a niche. So that people have been using the technology for handheld scanning. People walk around and they take pictures, they look at different processes with these cameras. And what we found is, hey, there's actually a niche to have a camera that's fixed, looking at a certain point, looking at a certain application, and monitoring that, and then giving that data back. So as we do that, it involves several different things. It involves camera systems. We're one of the Clear Systems' largest integrators in the U.S. as far as those cameras go. It involves use of a PC. Obviously, we've done a lot of work with Dell on this and projects in the past, and then it involves all the software which we develop in house and we maintain and do all that. So it's a lot of different processes coming together to give that data back. One of the problems that we solve is really we've looked in the past for abnormalities.
Got it.
So we're trying to detect for things that are different. People that aren't familiar with thermal imaging, we always talk about, well, have you seen the movie Predator? That's the easiest way to explain. Whatever he was looking for was something different in the field of view.
And that was so unfair. I'm hiding behind a tree. Obviously, nobody can see me, but he sees me. This is unfair.
Right. And so we try to look at things, to see the unseen, I think was one of the marketing pitches that was used at one point in time for infrared. And so we're trying to look for things that are different.
Got it.
And that could be everything from electrical component, like a transformer in a substation, that doesn't look quite right. It's hot for some reason.
Got it.
With electrical components, they typically show up right before they fail as an increase in heat. So that's where you use these things. Where we've kind of gone to here lately is looking for people that are different, meaning looking at temperature. So you're looking at a skin temperature or body temperature, and you're trying to say, hey, this person's actually warmer than the other. That could be indicative of a fever, could be indicative, which is a symptom for the current pandemic for COVID-19.
Absolutely.
So that's what we do is we try to look for differences, and then we share that data accordingly.
Got it. And talking about that quick jump right there, which is the big jump, can you just walk us through briefly, but it might take as much time as you need, but walk us through that jump. Now, you're selling thermal imaging equipment, and from my layman understanding, I'm at some big factory, some big billion-dollar piece of equipment churning out paint, cars, making cups, doing something. If it gets too hot, that's a problem. Your equipment, pre-COVID as it were, detects that and sends the alarm or tells the right people, there's a problem in widget number 10. Is that about right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. So then trends. Now, clearly, we all know we've seen the warnings. We've read the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, et cetera. Imaging and the heat and temperatures and fevers and all that. Was it easy for you to make this change? Did you just see it ahead of time and say, you know what, we can help? Can you talk about how that happened? You wake up one morning. What happened there?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Going back, Rich and I have done this for 20 years. So we went through SARS, we went through bird flu, H1N1, but honestly, those were very short-lived epidemics as far as the rollout of cameras and the use
Got
of
it.
And so at the very beginning, we thought, there might be some play there. There might be some ability for us to use these cameras. But it really all happened in about a week, to where our major supplier, FLIR, basically came and said, listen, for the good of humanity, for the good of their company, 100% of their production was going to go towards the production of cameras to fight COVID-19. Great for them. Bad for us if we're selling to a refinery or a steel mill. Also bad for us is a lot of our customers, went silent. They either shut down or they cut down production. They definitely cut spending budgets on what they were doing. So, our business shifted outside of any control that we had in about a week.
Got it.
And honestly, we just had to make the decision. It was easy because we had some experience in the past, and it was easy because we had a good foundation, if you will, as far as the technology. So we didn't have to design anything, for instance.
Got it.
We were able to say, listen, let's modify our software to where it's a little easier. Let's look at some different components to use. Again, working with Dell on how we integrated some of those systems in. We were able to pretty quickly, really, in about 3 days, we said, all right, let's do this. We like to tell the story of, we sketched some stuff out on a napkin, literally. We gave it to Alicia Hansen in our marketing group. She put together some stuff and said, hey, let's send this out to a few people. Rich and I went to play golf about the same time that she sent out the email, and we made it to about hole number 3 before our phones just absolutely blew up. So,
wow.
And we've been working 60, 80 hours a week ever since.
I hope you're paying Alicia a lot more right now, because I can imagine people hearing this. Somebody's going to snap her up. Maybe it'll be Eric. Eric, I do want to turn to you about a question about dangers of scaling in a minute, Eric. But before I do that, Eric, Andy, I want to ask you that question. It just came to me. What are some of the pros and cons of this switch? Meaning, you're in the middle of this right now.
Yeah.
So you're a small company today, but as you're scaling, there are dangers that maybe, are you going to grow too fast? What if this doesn't work? Too much debt, whatever, or it all could go well. I'm curious a little bit what you're going through, but can you extrapolate this so others can learn? And then Eric, I'd like you to answer the same thing. Forget his company, the tech companies.
Yeah.
Talk to other small businesses that are innovating. It's good that I'm changing, but man, they got to be careful. So Andy, first to you, then Eric. Andy?
Yeah, I think that's the crystal ball we keep staring into is really fuzzy. We'd love to get some clarity on that. However, we've been, we've been very measured. Well, we've been somewhat measured, not very. We've been somewhat measured in our approach. But the way we operate our business is, we make decisions quickly. So it helps that Rich and I are on board. We've got full buy-in from each other and say, yep, this is exactly what we need to do. Let's force some stuff at it. We were able, it's unfortunate for so many people got furloughed or let go. It was fortunate for us because so many people were furloughed and let go that we were able to bring some people on board for us to help us grow immediately. So, we've more than doubled in our size of our company as far as personnel. And a lot of that has been through people that have that may or may not be permanent. So I think we've had that, that's been a nice thing to where we've been able to grow with people that may not be long term. So if things do contract, when things do, they're going to contract, they're going to come back together. We won't have to have as big of a staff as we have now, but it's allowed us to honestly be able to choose really good people in this time and place and build up our team for the future without having to go through and say, hey, I'm having to come out of pocket all this money to do it, because we've been definitely self-funding as we go through.
Got it. So Eric's, thank you. Eric, spend some time on this if you like, but what I'm hearing here, Eric, is their thoughts on making decisions fast. I'm hearing here minimal viable product. I'm hearing here, he talked to his partners and they're just like, we're in for good or for bad. What are you seeing, Eric? What would be your advice to Andy? And you see business owners going through this. What can we learn from this, Eric?
It's a really good conversation, because whether it's pre-COVID, during COVID, or post-COVID, the reason that entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs is because they have a desire for success. They have something inside of them that says, hey, I know something can be successful. Their whole goal in life, no matter what pandemic we're going through, is to find success in their idea, their baby, in a way. I mean, this is something, to Andy's point earlier, this is a couple friends at a bar, writing this idea on a napkin, and voila, all of a sudden you have Google, or all of a sudden you have, the next best thing in thermal technology, like they have at Viper Imaging. And so scale is important no matter when we're going on, because everyone wants to continue to be success. The desire for success doesn't change because the world is hurting. I know Patty and I also work with small businesses that are doing this and pivoting for the good, right? There's a company that we're working with who, uses technology to fight hunger, and they've pivoted to help feed families. And I mean, it's just amazing to see what we have done in light of this to kind of help out. And I think this will continue. I mean, entrepreneurship is going to probably spike up again as people realize that there are a lot better ways to deal with pandemics than in a lot of areas that we've dealt with it. And I think this will continue to spur off a lot of new ideas, a lot of innovation, a lot of invention to continue to make us just better humans.
Yeah.
Now, to answer your question, I think it's kind of twofold. There's the capital part, which,
right,
I think Andy alluded to before. And one of the ways that you have to scale and scale quickly is through capital, right? And through people and through resource. And, that is really interesting in a time where we're facing potential financial hardship. And so how do you pick the right bank? How do you pick the right investors? How do you pick the right people? But that's the glorious thing about angel investors and private equity and these companies that can kind of stay away from the frame of financial collapse and continue to support these companies that have these really amazing ideas that still need that resource in order to be able to thrive, similar to what Andy was saying. Now, I like to talk about capital, but I'm not a banker, right? What I like to talk about is element number 2, which is through technology. What Andy and the team at Viper are doing is data intensive, right? They're trying to figure out all of this data around, thermals within bodies and how do we detect quicker. And that is going to require technology that can help them scale sometimes a lot faster than just adding people, right? And that goes across a lot of these companies. And as these companies come up with these ideas and they're thinking about how to best use their capital, sometimes human capital can be the biggest suckage of that resource. And so what I think we like to do at Dell Technologies is we like to work with companies like Viper who are, clearly being successful, and they're clearly growing faster than what they thought about. They can't even probably hire as quick as they'd like to hire. And they probably want to be smart because we are in a very interesting time financially. And so what's the best and most productive way to scale without having to add a bunch of resource? And that's through technology. And I can't thank Andy and Muku and the team at Viper enough for the kind words they've had about what we've done. But our job at Dell Technologies is not to sell stuff, right? And I think that's what we sometimes get that bad reputation about. Oh, Dell, they're just trying to sell us more stuff. But that's not true, right? We've really pivoted in our message, and we really are about how do we advise entrepreneurs the right way about how do they use technology in the best way they can in order to scale their business as fast as possible so that they can keep up with the success that they're seeing. And I think that was my favorite part of the story with Viper, is that they called us. We put one of our very best reps, in a small business advisors with the team at Viper. We had a team of people, storage specialists, complex solution specialists, PC specialists, making sure that we gave Viper the solution that was going to scale with them as quickly as possible in order for them to be successful. And it is, I think, in this day and age, the most important thing that you can think about in your business plan, because it can be such a great way to supplement resource, is having the right technology solution that can help and ramp and scale you quickest.
Yeah, no, I think that's powerful, Eric. And I think one thing, then Mukul, I'd love to turn to you and to know what was the inside scoop. I don't want to hear the world domination plans. Don't give me that. Andy may not like it, Mukul, but I want to turn to you in a minute. But Eric, to follow up on something, I think what I'm hearing you say, I got a lot of things here. One, partnering with a company. It happens to be we're talking to Dell today, but it seems like this is a partnership where Eric or Andy can stay small, as it were. But I'm just highlighting what you said, Eric, leverage technology to do much more than he ever could. You all are the technology experts. You know your systems. So that's one thing I'm hearing, Eric. Two is about advice. Is that, as small businesses, we know there's things we don't know, but partner with somebody to give you smart advice. So that's what I'm hearing you say, Eric, is that the play for smaller businesses, especially as we innovate. How can I innovate? Hiring some people is good. We want people to get to work, but more so, I'd rather hire 2 people and invest in exponential number of technology, software and hardware. Is that how I'm hearing what you're saying, Eric?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of people and entrepreneurs out there that don't know how to start that conversation. And what we tell people all the time is that if you're working with a technology provider that you don't find as approachable, find a new technology provider, because there should never be a dumb question when you are trying to build the right system in order to be able to manage your business, manage your data, be more efficient, be able to output more devices, be able to have better supply chain. All of this stuff is powered through technology. And there are a lot of folks out there and a lot of entrepreneurs that are growing faster than what they expected in light of what's going on, that don't know how to ask those questions. What we say to them is, Dell Technologies is there for you to answer whatever question it is, including how do you turn the PC on? Like, we don't ever judge on what part of the process that you're on. We talk to the most basic users of technology. We talk to the most advanced small businesses with technology. I mean, fintech and biotech firms. I mean, there's small businesses out there trying to figure out a vaccine for this thing, right? And so that takes technology at a completely different level. So no matter where it is within that spectrum, it's important that you have a provider that you can count on, because technology does have that importance to your business, similarly to money.
Yeah, for sure. And I must say, Eric, this is why, Eric, my application to be a Dell technology advisor has been rejected so many times, because if somebody asks me, how do I turn on a computer? Eric, I'm sorry, man. I'd have to laugh right on the phone, and you'd fire me. You'd be like, Ramon, that's not how we talk to our customer. Never. So, anyways, Mukul, can you turning to you, give us some of the insight about this aspect of technology. Technology is a big part. I love technology, Mukul. So help us understand, and not, I'm as far away from engineering as snow is from the desert. Trust me. But layperson's terms, what did you go through? What were you trying to do? What was the problem that you're trying to solve, that you needed this expert advice, and working with your own expertise, I'm sure, Mukul. And then if you can, answer that question as well for others who are listening. Maybe we're not technology companies. It could be a hair salon. It could be manufacturing cups. They could be an accounting firm. If you're able, let's extrapolate that also as general as we can. But talking about Viper Imaging first, Mukul, what was your role? What was the challenge? And give us some inside points of the story from your perspective of technology and pivoting a bit.
Okay. So I joined Viper in April 2019. So
okay.
It's just about an year or so. And when Andy and Rich came up with the idea that, hey, we can do this, and we were given the details that this is how we were planning. And then I was a part of the engineering team who came up with the design and, what all we can use. And the thing is, I never went to any other company apart from Dell. So all the projects which we have been doing, we are always using Dell, be it a monitor, be it a PC, anything. So when I got that sketch on the paper napkin, I just went to Dell. I saw what all the options they had, and I just called our account manager that, hey, we are trying to do this, and this is what I have in mind. What can you offer me? So I had a couple of products in mind, and then I gave him just an idea, And then he was able to suggest, okay, you can do this, you can put this, you can put these two things together, and then have just a small little setup.
Got it. Got it. And then talking about, let's extrapolate this as best you can, Mukul. If it's not a fair question, just push back, no problem. But let's talk to the I don't know, the restaurant owner. They've had their, in New York, there was a Peter Luger's. I don't know, Eric, if you've been there before, but some New Yorkers know it. So yeah, I see your smile, Eric. So, no credit cards, no delivery, 100 billion years old company. Now they're taking credit cards. They're doing deliveries. Never did it before. Some of that takes technology. So my question to you, Mukul, as best as you can answer, what's your advice for smaller business owners who are in a new position? They need to leverage technology. They need to do new things. They're struggling. Any advice from you, kind of the tech of our foursome? What's your advice? How do we do that? Where do we start? I'm not a techie, but I heard Eric say, I want to start using tech. I'm hearing Andy saying, innovate. Mukul, any ideas how we start? Some advice for the average small business owner who knows a bit of tech. They can work their way around a spreadsheet or turn a computer on, but they're not an engineer like you. What are some guidance maybe you can guide us with?
So the thing is that technology is evolving like every day.
Okay.
If something comes out today, in 2 years, it's old, right? So you have to, if you want to stay in the world, you have to adapt to technology. That's what I've learned the hard way, right? I'm a techie, but I don't like my life revolving around gadgets. But then the thing is, you cannot run away from them.
Right.
Right? If for one day, if our cell phone is not working, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of the day?
Nothing to do. There's nothing. Our life is stopped. If the cell phone's not working, Mukul, that's it. Life is over. Go ahead. I'm just teasing. Go ahead.
Exactly. So, I know, so for example, a small app called DoorDash.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
It makes life so easy. You just go over there, select what you want, and it will be delivered right to your doorstep. Right? That's technology. So now the thing is, a lot of local restaurants have benefited from apps like this.
Right.
For example, sometimes I'm just in a bed, I don't want to go out and get food.
Mm-hmm.
I can just take my cell phone, order it. The restaurant's getting paid, I'm getting food. We both are happy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there are N numbers of things in technologies which I think everyone should go through, see how it helps you, and then adapt to that.
Got it. Appreciate that. Andy, for you as the business owner, as the co-founder, as the entrepreneur, can you talk about the aspect of, and let me know if you don't understand the question, but the aspect of you have the dream, the vision, you sketched it out. Here's what I want. How then do you lead your team? How do you talk to Mukul and the others in your company to get this done, to inspire them, to innovate them? Because you're the co-founder. Like me, we have our brains are scatterbrained. We got ideas all over the world, all over the, all over the sphere, as it were. How do you, the entrepreneur in you with ideas, how do you then lead the team to get that done? I know it's a big question, but can you give us 2 or 3 key points of how you then make it happen?
Well, I think, what we found over the years is you got to have good people, both as employees and as partners. So like to kind of piggyback on what Mukul was talking about, when we were able to sketch this thing out and we gave it to Mukul, say, hey, listen, we need a computer. That's as far as I got. That's as far as I needed to get.
Right.
Because, Mukul has some ideas. He knows what he's looking for. But at the same time, then he gets on the phone with somebody who knows even more about it at Dell and says, hey, then I can put these pieces together. I mean, you really have to rely on your people. When we look at supply chain or something like that, it's more than just components. Our supply chain is probably as much in the knowledge base that our employees have and that our partners have that we use. So, I think as far as, leadership and direction, we want people on our team that have an ownership mentality, that say, hey, this is what I would do for my company. This is what I would do, because it is, we're all in this together in so many ways, that we want to make sure that, they're making those decisions based on what they would want to do. So, while we spell out guidelines, we're never going to be, our management philosophy and leadership philosophy is, we want to cast a vision. And, while I am somewhat OCD and somewhat detail oriented at some levels, we want them to make those decisions, to push towards those things. Again, partnering with Dell on this application has been great because they took care of I I don't care about the vase amount that's going in between the camera and the TV until it showed up. And I'm like, oh, that is what I wanted. I didn't know that's what I wanted until I got there. And it's so much easier. Just like, oh, it all flows together. And going on, I mean, so yeah, we started that design. You know, the design has not been static. You know, we're always moving. And, you know, for instance, we're changing some of the specs that we got on the computer now, just kind of going back to what was said earlier of, you know, what we found is if we spend a little bit extra money, we can get a processor that's a whole lot faster. Right. And that helps our engineering crew set up the systems. And we're saving like, you know, 30 minutes every time we set up the system. Well, 30 minutes transfers into a lot of stuff. I can build so many more systems in a day based on that. So, I mean, I think that trickle down from having people that are engaged, that take ownership, and that are qualified in their own areas. Sure. It's important to make sure that you're using all those resources as much as possible.
Yeah, no, it's powerful. And Eric, I'm curious from your perspective, when you think about, and again, this happens to be Dell, but let's extrapolate this to any company out there. We're small businesses. We know what we want. Andy's the visionary. He has a few good team members, but we need partnerships. My question to you, Eric, is that what should small businesses be looking for when they're looking to partner? What should they run away from? Let's pretend it didn't happen well. What would you say, Ramon? I don't want you to tell us how you screwed up. That's not fair to ask you. But my point is, what should we run away from? What should we gear towards? Because we're going to need this more, whether it's databases, CRM, marketing, social media, technology, computers, as Dell does well. What are some things that we should look for in a partner? Or, you know, Ramon, if your partner can't do this, maybe they're not a fit for you. How do we balance that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first and the foundation of working with a good partner is that they understand small business. I remember when I took over this job about 5 years ago, running the small business division at Dell, you know, one of the things that we struggled with and the feedback that we got from small business owners is that, you know, big companies don't understand us. Big companies don't understand small companies. But the fact of the matter is if you really kind of peel the onion back, we have more scale, we have more resources, there's a lot of things that we can do to help. So how do you bridge those two things? Because there's a lot of big companies that they're absolutely right, that it's not their focus, it's too hard, it's too complex. There's 27 million small businesses in the US. A lot of big companies outsource all of their resources to help small businesses to other partners. It doesn't make it feel good to a small business owner not to have that understanding of what they're going for. So I think the foundation is to make sure you're partnering with companies that really put small business at the core of who they are. You know, companies like Dell that started out as small businesses is a good place to start. I think of other big companies, just at CRM, you know, Salesforce is another amazing company that almost sections off an entire part of their company just to focus on small and medium business. Microsoft is another amazing partner that really does a lot in order to improve small businesses. I can remember that, you know, Bill and Melinda and Michael and Susan were the first out there kind of donating money to ensure that they helped the small business community that suffered so badly when this pandemic first started and we started having shelter in place across the country. Those are the kind of companies that you want to deal with. And I think the other question that I hear a lot of times from small businesses is, do I partner with small? Do I partner with medium? Do I partner with big? It all depends on what it is you need and how fast you need it. The good, and again, I can only speak from being at a big company. What we leverage is we lever resource, we lever speed, we lever the ability to get to pricing that small businesses need in order to operate at an official level. Like, there are things that we can do because of our scales that are our scale that are so helpful to small businesses, especially when they're growing as fast as companies are like Viper Imaging. But the other thing is that we're also really good at helping those smallest customers, those dry cleaners, those hair salons, those tutors, those people that are just starting up for the first time. And I think that's so very important, because that connection with a partner that really understands what you're going through is super important, because you could be building the next huge thing. You could be building the next kind of thermal device that tracks temperatures in people, right, you know, dealing with COVID. So when you know that that's happening, having that type of knowledge base and that focus on this customer set, I think, is so incredibly important to be successful.
No, for sure. I think so. And I do encourage people to check out, and not just to buy something, but the Dell Technologies. I hear your radio ads in the New York market. These are guys and gals, men and women who, they like to help. I've been on the chat, phone, and I've met many of them, as you know, Eric, at different Dell events. So it's been pretty cool just to see their passion and their really knowledge of, as you said, not just the tech, speeds and feeds. Anybody can do that. You can Google for that, but that they understand the business itself. So that's pretty cool.
That's right.
Andy, anything I didn't ask you? I'm sure there's 1,000 things I didn't ask you, but anything I didn't ask you, Andy, that you wanted to bring out that was important, or Mukul, anything you wanted to add into as we wrap up today's discussion, which I think has been great. Listen, talking about the power of technology, talking a bit about leadership and getting teams together, talking about how you outsource and partner. But Andy, anything you wanted to mention or talk about before we wrap this up?
No, I think it's just, I think you said it there. I think it's today, I think we can make a lot better strides in business and humanity and whatever with cooperation. And that's really what it's about. Whether it's cooperation within our team, cooperation with our partners, cooperation with our customers. We're always listening to them. We're modifying things. That trickles down all the way through. So, having that open channel for communication, to be very, not necessarily verbose, but to be in constant contact, both with our customers and with our technology providers like Dell and others. That's where we're able to be able to make better decisions. If we're in that cooperation, if we're in that, that understanding of where we know things are, then it's a lot easier for us to pivot. It's a lot easier for us to jump out there and to take a risk because we understand, or we have a better sense of what's going on, as opposed to sticking your thumb in the air and going, well, I think this might be the way it's blowing. Let's see if we can jump on the wind that way. And so it's been great for us to have that cooperation, to watch it grow. And in times of crisis, everybody comes together too. So it's been a unique business environment, and one that we've been fortunate in how we have been how we've grown, but at the same time, we realize a lot of people haven't. But I think as we get back to work, as people start coming back in, that cooperation is going to hopefully continue.
Absolutely. Listen, this has been a great discussion talking to Eric Day, who heads small business at Dell. It's the flag he waves. Andy, and I'll never look at thermal imaging again the same, Andy. Thanks for being with us, co-founder of Viper Imaging, and Mukul, engineer at Viper Imaging. My name is Ramon Ray, founder and editor and producer of, yes, I forgot the company I work for, smarthustle.com. So thank you all for joining us today. Listening, if you're hearing this on iTunes, Stitcher, and otherwise, please give us a rating. And great to serve you. And again, check out smarthustle.com.